All right. Recording is set. Man, it has been an eventful few months since I last did one of these. Oh, okay. I guess I didn't have a topic prepared for the cold open, so I don't even know what to say here.
Oh, we were supposed to chime in and be like, wow, it sure has been.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, sometimes you just talk in the beginning and we just sit here quietly.
I don't know what else
Disciples.
You're just like, all right, Min, that's nice. Good for you.
Yes, that's how the openings go.
Yeah.
Smiling.
Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Min and Yang, the new and improved RWBY podcast from YouTube user Eldena Doublecast, i.e. me. Why is it new and improved? Why do we have this excellent new art by artsy Antatee? Say hi to everyone.
Hello, it's me.
Why have I changed everything? Well, because between the last podcast and this one, I transed my gender. I'm going by Minerva or Min or Minnie now, and my pronouns are she, her. However, you can still find me on both Twitter and Tumblr at Doublecast, spelled with a 5 instead of an S. And also, as always, I am joined by a wonderful panel of guests. And when I go to your slide, please let everyone know your name, your pronouns, if you make content, what kind of content do you make, and where people can find you on social media.
Hello, I'm Eli. I go by he, him pronouns. I have a Twitter and Instagram, Artsy Antatee, where I draw in between being a 3D animation student full-time. Whatever spare time I have, I usually spend it drawing K-pop art, although there's like sprinkles of Pokemon art every now and then too. Or I just don't draw
is very
at all.
cute.
Thank you. It's my classic ship from when I was 10 years old.
Aw, we love to see it. Also, as you can see, not one, but 2 genders transed in the past 3 months.
Yes.
You guys just swap.
That's right. I stole Min's hair and Min can take mine.
If only.
I'm Maria. I use she, her pronouns. I don't make content. I just shitpost. I'm on Twitter at the Queen of Memes and Tumblr at Shitty Winged Eyeliner.
Your content is telling people to listen to Strawberry Blonde by Mitski.
Yeah. Which was not my Spotify song of the year. That was the Hand Crushed by a Mallet 100 Gex Fallout win.
My greatest accomplishment of last year was getting both you and Cam, who's one of our other IRL friends, hooked on 100 Gex.
I may or may not currently be the top bidder for a sold-out green pressing of 1,000 Gex on vinyl, so...
Oh my god. Mercedes!
Yes. Oh, speaking of your greatest accomplishments, by the way, my #1 song on Spotify this year was a fucking Love Live song. So congratulations.
Garasu no Hanazono makes people feel emotions. I don't know what to tell you, man.
Look, I don't know. It unlocked something in me. It was a weird summer. But anyway, yeah. Hi, I'm Mercedes. I go by she, her pronouns. I can be found on Twitter at CoffeeBees, on Tumblr at Light Surrender Vanity. And I don't know. I post some stuff sometimes. Sometimes I write fic. Mostly I just watch cartoons.
Mercedes.
Anyway, yeah.
The best or nothing.
What?
Never mind.
Hey, I'm Pug. I use she, her pronouns. You can find me basically everywhere as Cappuccino. I work in CG animation by day. I post problematic takes about villains at night. I guess I write fic sometimes, but anonymously.
Also, I appreciate this art you had in place of your photo because it really does capture the vibe of your presence on this podcast.
I know that is an actual photo of me.
Yeah, this is incredible. I'm loving this angle.
It's the
Thank
knife.
you.
It's the knife cat, but with a pug.
It's so cute.
Yeah, I see that.
It's great.
It was not embarrassing to commission at all.
Sometimes you must commission cringe. It's just a part of life. Okay, with intros out of the way, let's just jump right into errors and omissions, because there are, of course, things to actually me on from the last episode. Okay, first of all, Gone Rampant pointed out that the 20-shot revolver from Reddit was something that Carrie found, not Miles. I conflate the two constantly, so that's not surprising. Zonix says that the arena that Ironwood and Watts fought on near the end of Volume 7 was actually something that was originally going to be in Volume 3. It was supposed to be the arena for Pyrrha and Nora versus Sun and Neptune, but that was a fight that got cut for time. But the arena idea was so cool they decided to reuse it for another fight later. There was, in the last episode, Jello went on a whole tangent about like a hypothetical scenario in which every member of Team Witch has to fight a member of Team RWBY, and was going off on a whole thing about how that wouldn't work because there aren't really any parallels between the members of Team RWBY and the members of Team Witch. Team Witch, by the way, is the Salem Generals. That was the nickname that some people have come up with for them. But someone in the comments pointed out that there is actually parallels between Team Witch and the Heroes, but it's not between the Salem Generals and Team RWBY. It's between the Salem Generals and Ozpin's crew. So the
how can you say that without really knowing the Vacuo headmaster, though?
The idea, I don't know, we just go off on tangents on this podcast sometimes and just say things. We just string words into sentences and hope it works out. So the idea...
Hearing that that's how it happened makes me even more... I hate that it was like actually planned to be not related to Team RWBY in the first place.
But basically, what someone in the comments said is that they're supposed to be the opposite of Ozpin's crew. So the idea is that Watts has a brain, Hazel has a heart, and Tyrion has courage. But, like, it's just, like, evil and fucked up. So.
And Cinder is like Dorothy?
Yeah, Cinder, I guess, would be evil Dorothy, but Cinder is already evil Cinderella, so this is just getting confusing. Ruby and...
Ruby is also Dorothy and Little Red Riding Hood, and probably like 5 other things.
Ruby and Mixing Metaphors, name a more iconic duo. Xing Shang Shamalama, welcome back, pointed out that the technique I referred to in the last episode as the Venus Thigh Trap has an actual name. It is called a flying neck scissor, and it is a move in both pro wrestling and judo. So, fun facts.
That's the Sonya from Mortal Kombat move.
I would not be surprised if it is in Mortal Kombat. That sounds like something that could be correct. And finally, I want to pronounce this Rai of Sunshine. It is almost certainly Ray of Sunshine. Commented the theory, which I have read before, that the Aesops lose their fights in ways that reflect the fables that they're based off of, because they're all based off of Aesop's fables. So Clover is based off of A Fisherman's Good Luck, which is about the importance of patience, and he loses his fight because he couldn't just wait to arrest Crow until Tyrion was safely locked up. Harriet is based off The Tortoise and the Hare, which is about the dangers of overconfidence, and she underestimates Team RWBY. Elm and Vine are based off of the fable of the Elm and the Vine, which is about the importance of, like, working together and complementing each other, and they lose because they don't work well as a team. And Marrow is based off The Dog and His Reflection, and he gets beat by Weiss, whose whole motif is mirrors. So, I don't know how much of that has anything to it, but I thought it was neat.
Some of them are neat. The Clover one's a bit of a stretch to me, I think. Or, like, undercuts what was actually going on in that scene, I actually think. But...
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more going on, but I don't know. This is one of those things where it's like, RWBY definitely puts a lot of thought into some of their, like, fairy tale analogies, and I can never tell how much of that is, like, actually the writers doing work and how much is, like, fans knowing that that's a thing they do occasionally and, like, trying to find more shit.
It definitely works best for characters that are not super prominent. So it works well for the Aesops, I think, that weren't Clover. For Clover, because that scene had more to do with Crow. I think it was a little strange.
God, I wish I had this when we were doing the Volume 7 episode, because I was going absolutely insane a few weeks ago because I found a meme that someone posted that was like a picture of the dudes from Brokeback Mountain, where the caption is just, my semblance is good fortune, lucky you, huh?
Yeah, you sent that to me and I screamed.
It's so funny. Okay, let's get back on topic. Welcome to the Volume 8 Mid-Season Predictions episode. Basically, here's what's going on. I don't like weekly reaction content. I do not like making that kind of content because I feel like on a week-to-week basis, just watching a show, there isn't enough, like, to work with to make a whole video out of. That's just, like, my opinion. No offense to anyone who makes weekly reaction content. It's just not what I want to do. But I did want, since, you know, Rooster Teeth gave us this long mid-season break between the first and second half of Volume 8, I thought it might be fun to sort of sum up the midway point, talk about where we're at thus far, and throw out some wild predictions as to what might happen next. I actually fucked up this slide, but so just ignore one of just ignore the bullet point about the betting section. I did fix it on another slide. But basically, we're going to talk about the first half of Volume 8. We're going to go over our sort of theories and predictions, and then at the very end, we're going to have a game, which is essentially like a multiple choice quiz for things that haven't happened yet, which I'm calling the betting special. And basically, everyone's going to place their bets on what will happen in the second half of Volume 8, and whoever gets the most right gets to request a ship video of me. So, friends, have you decided what ship video you would ask me for if you won?
Hell yeah, Gossip Girl.
I was thinking Glee just because of the trash.
Oh no! Maria, did you think of one?
You know, I really haven't. Off the top of my head, have you done Fruits Basket yet?
I have not done Fruits
that could
Basket.
Work. Yeah, maybe. I'll think of it.
And Pug, I'm assuming you'd ask for Haikyuu?
Yes. Thank you for
Yes.
understanding.
All right, so cool. Anyone can win except Eli. All right. Let's get into the hot takes on this volume. I decided not to divide things into the good, the bad, and the discourse because I just had a feeling that we'd have a lot of conflicting opinions on everything that has happened thus far. So that should be fun. Should get lots of lively debate out of this one.
Min's trying to start fights.
As always. Okay, first topic of discussion to address is Rooster Teeth decided to take the approach this time around of splitting the party, or rather reorganizing the teams. So rather than our usual Ruby and Juniper, Ranger, and whatever, we're now dealing with Team Rainbow of Ruby, Nora, Weiss, and Blake, and Team Orgy with Oscar, Ren, Jean, and Yang.
Must it be Team Orgy?
You think of a better team name.
Hopefully you just
be
switch
Team
the
Orgy.
J and the Y and it's orange. Or Joyride. I've seen Joyride going around.
Maybe. This one's funnier.
Orgy.
I don't like
Cinnamon situation all over again.
I
don't like Orgy O is for Oscar. I just don't like that.
Yeah, leader Oscar, grow up, please. what year is it?
It's not my fault that works well for name jokes. Okay. How are we feeling on the new team dynamics? What are people's thoughts thus far?
I am loving the Thunderchrome dynamics of Team Rainbow. I'm putting that out there right now.
I feel like okay on it. I think what I was noticing on the rewatch was that Nora and Yang don't act the same, like personality-wise, but I think if they had been like swapped, like it was still Team RWBY, Yang for sure probably would have done most of the actions that Nora does in the Team Rainbow. So I was kind of feeling like it wasn't that different than just regular Team RWBY.
Like Yang and Nora are kind of reckless in the same way when it comes to like dramatic moments sometimes. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, I think their characters are different enough that isn't like that doesn't register as like an issue to me, but I kind of see what you're saying.
The joy, I'm gonna call them Joyride because I like that. The Joyride team is like a little bit more interesting. I hate that like the main thing that is causing drama between them is Ren, but the dynamic there I think is kind of interesting, where you have these different levels of like competence between them.
Maria, do you have any thoughts on the new teams?
I agree with Eli that I'm not really seeing, like, it was kind of nice to have Blake be sassy in that one episode, but like we're not really, in my opinion, we're not really getting like seeing different sides of them or anything in this dynamic. I also hate Ren right now. Ren, get the stick out of your ass challenge.
Yeah, you know what? I think Ren causes the most discourse this volume, so why don't we just jump straight into that? Pug, hit me with your hottest take.
Oh, I really thought I could not dislike Ren anymore, and then this volume comes out. I don't know if I'm particularly reacting to, you know, the writers acknowledging that Nora needs character growth that's outside of Ren, verbally acknowledging this in the show and then promptly knocking her unconscious. And I don't know if I'm reacting to the terrible development of Ren's semblance, which just makes him the most annoying mouthpiece on any show ever. But it is unfortunate that he has so much screen time this volume.
But the direction Ren has gone this volume, I mean, nothing that's happened wasn't like laid out at the end of volume 7 with his little meltdown, right? So, like, yeah, Ren's kind of a bitch this volume, but I'm like, well, it's been laid out that it's going to be going this way, so it's not a shock.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that they acknowledge that this duo needs more character development separate, and then somehow, again, we're in the same situation where it just goes to Ren.
Yeah, whoever put the comment that was like a way to give Nora a bit of character development and then knock her out for the volume, was that you, Ant? Because that's true. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Pug.
Her fucking character development, she's like, oh, you know, I'm nothing without Ren. All I can do is be strong and hit stuff. And then she is strong and hits stuff and then gets knocked out. Like, there's no development there.
But I thought that scene was really interesting, like, just the way that Weiss and Blake and Nora all kind of played off of each other within it. Like, I think it said some really interesting things about all three of them. So like,
I liked Blake's little spiel because that like makes sense for her arc. But I was kind of like, I could have used more than what we got with Nora.
Yeah. And we also still have half a volume for Nora to have like the full arc though as well, right? Like.
Yes, I think regardless of what our predictions are for what's going to happen in the next half of the volume, I think we can all agree that something we would like to see in the second half is basically Nora wakes up and we get the rest of like what they were setting up in that scene at the Atlas Academy.
Well, I think that's inevitable.
I'm not confident we're going to get much else.
They've done her dirty before, so if I want to win, I'm betting against that.
I would say that's definitely part of it. But I also feel like the whole thing with Nora's development was it's basically her saying, I don't know who I am without Red, and that's what the writers, I think, also feel too. But their answer to that was like, well, she just likes to be strong and hit stuff, which is kind of like the most like baseline of her personality that we already know about. And so it was kind of like Nora's like, yeah, I am just who you already think I am, which is kind of like a really huge like cop out in my opinion. And to me, it feels like the writers have answered the question of like who Nora is. I don't know.
I don't know. I think that's going into it with a bit of bad faith, though. I mean, for her to answer the question in that same episode and then knock her out, like, I don't know. I think that's a pretty glaring thread. I'd like to assume that they'd carry it out a bit further than that. I don't know. There's going to be a Nora moment this volume. It's going to be awesome.
At risk of being a Rooster Teeth apologist here, I feel like there's another reading of this you can do where you can say, basically, that scene is her pondering, what is it, that's the scene where she ponders, like, what makes me me? Like, who am I without Ren? And all she can think of is be strong and hit stuff. And then she does that and, immediately gets, like, knocked unconscious. And I think what you can draw from that is maybe she has to be more than that. And then the next part of her arc is basically figuring out who she is beyond just being strong and hitting stuff. Because if that's, like, all she is, then, there's, like, you kind of literally, like, hit a wall there.
Well, we do have her mumble, like, what am I good for when she's knocked out in Weiss's bed. So
exactly.
Maybe
I was about to say that. Thank you. Yeah, I think that suggests that they're definitely gonna like lean into it more if they have her doing that mumble moment.
Maybe this is a little early for theorizing, but I've definitely heard, and this would be unfortunate because it would basically be using what Nora development we had as a catalyst for Ren development. But I've heard some theories that either Nora is going to die, or Ren's gonna see Nora with like scars all over her body and be like, "Oh shit! Like I've been an asshole this whole time." The last time we saw each other, I was being a dick, and then he's gonna get the stick out of his ass or something. I don't know. I would not like that to happen, please.
Wildly insulting if that happened that way.
Same.
Jesus Christ, yeah. I did see the theory that Nora's lightning strike is gonna that's how her semblance is gonna evolve next. And I was like, okay, tell me more. I'm interested.
I could see that. If Ren's semblance evolving is like actually the beginning of a trend of a lot of people getting new uses for their semblance, that'd be like super cool. Because Ruby's
is already evolving this volume.
Oh, right, because she found out that she can like move
Penny found out
around no, it was originally Harriet, and then Penny like found another use for it, but I think Harriet was the first one who said like, oh, it's not just a speed semblance. And so
Penny's the one who defined it. She's the one who was like, this is scientifically how it works. Harriet was just like, I think there's more going on there, kiddo.
Right. Whatever, you get what
Ruby
I'm saying.
didn't discover it herself.
Yes, that's the important part here. Ruby needed it explained to her. But basically, there haven't been a lot of like traditional like shonen power-ups on this show because that's not how it's structured. But I think it would be cool to sort of throw that in of like, hey, everyone gets a new ability this volume, just to like add some additional elements to either the combat or, in the case of Ren, to the characterization. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on that because on the one hand, like, is it kind of lazy to give a character a power where he can just read everyone's emotions and say out loud how they're feeling to force them to confront those emotions? Yes. But on the other hand, is anything about Ruby subtle? No. So I almost can't be too mad about it.
I just don't think there's anything. I think there is subtlety, and I think Ruby does things not subtle, but in a fun way, and I don't think there's anything fun about his semblance. It's very lazy.
Counterpoint, that scene with Winter with all the little petals flowing around her, and she looked so pretty.
I mean, part of it for me is like, I do get a lot of satisfaction out of just watching him just like essentially snatch everyone's wigs for like a minute. Just being like,
But-
you don't actually think like that. You don't want to be here. You're conflicted. Everyone's just like, damn, that is how I feel. Like, it's sort of like you've watched these characters, like, just sort of act against their own interests to some extent, like, to some degree or another, and, like, sort of force their emotions down in ways that are incredibly frustrating as an audience, because you're just like, oh, come on, like, see what's right in front of you, you know, particularly with, like, Ironwood. And so to have that just, like, pushed out in the open, like, I don't know, I got a kick out of it.
I think I struggle a lot with, and this kind of goes to a lot of the points on this slide, with the convenience of the writing in this season, the convenience of having Ruby and Yang have that argument so the parties can kind of split up and do the two things that they need to do, the convenience of having Ironwood have his fit and pull back the Atlas military, which was obviously for a later scene coming up, the convenience of Ren's semblance developing so he can have that conversation and get Winter to allow them in the whale. It just feels like we had to get from point A to point B, and we took like the path of least resistance and the least nuanced writing to get there. And if any of these things had happened individually, I think I would have bumped up against it less, but because they happen so concurrently, it's just frustrating.
Oh, I actually back up and because I would like to talk about the convenience of the Yang and Ruby argument, because I actually think that's one of the things I'm more interested in this volume. I wouldn't call it like a convenient out of nowhere thing at all, but I was wondering if you could speak to that more.
I get that it has like kind of built up from last season, where suddenly now Ruby, it has like her mistakes are kind of like piling up, and Yang for some reason is the one that is like now like for Yang only really seems to be the one that's speaking up that she doesn't really trust Ruby's like team leadership anymore. But my problem is it feels kind of like confusing, like what exactly was Ruby wrong about that Yang is mad about? Because this is also getting into predictions. It's hard for me to see like what Ruby can do that is gonna make Yang forgive her, that isn't just gonna be like, oh, suddenly they finally see each other after like 2 days of being apart, and they're like, oh, we're sisters, we still care about each other, and then the problem's solved. Because it's hard for me to be like, suddenly Ruby makes like a good decision, and then Yang is like, oh, okay, I trust you as a leader again. Because I don't think Ruby has been making that horrible of decisions that Yang would suddenly be so distrustful of her.
I don't think they're in that broken of a fight, though. Like, I think that they disagreed about how to go about things, so they split up. But I don't think this is a fight that they need a big, giant resolution for. I think that what I find interesting is, like, Yang raised Ruby up until the beginning of the show. Like, Yang has been, like, Ruby's big sister and, like, taking care of her and making all the decisions and that sort of stuff. So for her to get to a point where she's just like, why is Ruby my leader when I've been in charge for so much longer? And then like start questioning that feels like really natural to me, actually. Like, I think it's really interesting. But I don't think they're in the kind of fight where they need like a big reconciliation. I think it's more of a clashing of minds and family.
I would agree with Mercedes on this one in the sense that I think based on like how that fight played out and how people talked about it afterwards, it felt less to me like, yeah, like a big emotional rift that needs to have like another big emotional moment to resolve, and more about just like a strict disagreement on tactics that other characters have sort of interpreted as being more of a problem than it actually is, which reflects more to them than it does to Ruby and Yang. So, for example, we see this in two separate occasions. We see it first in the conversation between Nora, Weiss, and Blake, where someone's like, I hope that, I think it's Blake, an only child, says, like, I hope Ruby and Yang will be okay, and Weiss is like, that's just kind of how sisters are. Like, they have disagreements sometimes, but, at the end of the day, it's all good. And, you also see that with, like, Yang and Jean, where Yang says, like, I hope she'll be able to forgive me. And Jean's like, yeah, Ruby loves you, you'll be fine. And Yang's like, yeah. Ruby. So, like, and Ruby, like, she kept trying to contact, like, I don't think she has, like, any actual ill will towards Yang. It's clear that Yang isn't super concerned about, like, Ruby not liking her anymore. Like, it just seems to me like there isn't actually much of a rift between them, and it was more just, like, again, strictly, like, a tactical thing for the sake of, like, is it kind of just to get everyone into new teams? Sure, but, like,
perhaps the convenience was that created more scenes for them to cut to, because it split up the teams more.
Yeah,
that's my problem, actually. The problem is
that's like the issue.
I'm like, the problem is that the argument is irrelevant, and therefore it only exists to split the two parties for a tactical reason. And I just think it was an unnecessary plot point.
But emotionally, I think all of the teams are growing in different ways than they would have been if they were together as a team. So how is that not valuable?
Right, you just don't hear what I'm saying. It's just about the convenience of the argument leading to the splits of the party. It's not necessarily a critique of the party being split. I actually enjoy the party being split. I'm firmly on Team Rainbow. But it's just, again, it's this kind of, how do we get the two parties apart? Okay, well, we'll have Ruby and Yang disagree on what exactly? Nobody knows.
So, yeah, they could have still split up the parties and not have them fight. And it could have happened just as smoothly. Because Ren and Nora already have, like, problems with each other. And that they could have just said, oh, for tactical reasons, we're going to send the Joyride team on this mission, and we're sending Team Rainbow on this mission. But instead they were like, no, it's actually, like, a and, like, I would say, like, mostly emotionally driven decision to split up the team. And so it's causing this like subplot of, like, this fight that is really, you're right, it isn't a huge deal, and it's, like, totally, like, you're right, it doesn't play like it's a big deal, and that's kind of a problem because they kind of tried to make it seem like this is why we're splitting up, kind of, but in the actuality it doesn't matter. It was just a reason to get the teams into two separate teams.
Yeah, like, we know they're gonna come back together eventually because, like, they're sisters and they're ultimately on the same side, and it's not, like, it's not compelling.
Be interested to see if they do anything else in the second half with this, because yeah, I agree. Like, it is. I think a running theme of this podcast will be people saying this is contrived and me saying this is contrived, but I'm having a lot of fun. So you know, I'll allow it. All right. Another element of this volume is that Penny is getting a lot of attention, and I love it, but also I'm kind of terrified. Maria, you are, I think, the #1 Penny Polendina stan account here. You have thoughts?
Yes, she is one of my favorite characters. Up there for best girl with probably Nora, IMO. I agree. I like the screen time she's getting. I like to see her in fights. I like to see her use the Maiden powers. I like the kind of her kind of butting heads with Pietro about, like, you know, him wanting to preserve her because he's her father and he doesn't want to see her die again, and she wanting to live her life or whatever. But I am scared. Honestly, if they kill her again, I am probably gonna drop the show just because, like, I don't want to have to watch her die again. Like, I just don't want to go through that again. And if they do, they better have a really good reason. I'm not quite sure how I feel about the hacking. It seems kind of easy for them to hack into her, like, just conveniently easy. But I guess we'll see, because I guess we don't know how much, like, control she has over it. And I guess we'll have to see, like, is she gonna end up, like, fighting against her allies? Like, what are they gonna ultimately have her do?
Would you drop the show if she dies and they bring her back, or you're just done if she dies at all?
I don't know if they... I guess it would depend on what the circumstances were, because I've said this before, that I think Penny is the only character that I'm fine with them bringing back just because of her being a robot. But, you know, we've already established that if she dies again, it's going to be really hard on Pietro because like her aura is tied to his, and I don't know. I feel like it might be getting a little like just if they kill her and bring her back again, I fear it might be getting into what my problems are with reincarnation, which is that it messes with the stakes of everything, and if we just keep killing this person and bring them back again, then what's the point?
That's the supernatural problem.
Yeah, or the Dragon Ball Z problem.
I was gonna say Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, both of those shows have the same issue. I will say, early on in Volume 7, they have Pietro say in, like, so many words, like, yeah, I only have a little bit of aura left. I've given most of it to Penny, and, like, I can't revive her again because it would drain the last of my aura. And that kind of feels like a bit of a Chekhov's gun, as if to say, like, he is going to sacrifice himself to bring her back one more time, but obviously it may not end up playing out like that.
That's definitely what I think is going to happen, though. Like, I don't think Penny is going to die. I think Pietro is definitely going to die, but I think Penny is safe.
Yeah, that's where my money is. Pietro dying.
Which is unfortunate because I like him, but also death flags.
Yeah, poor delightful death flag of a man.
Oh, don't you just hate it when you get attached to a character who has like a gazillion death flags on them?
Clover stands crying in the background.
Lucky you.
Oh.
I think an interesting element here is that Penny seems to be dealing with like a lot of guilt around the Maiden powers, and like feeling it's sort of like the Spider-Man like with great power comes great responsibility thing, and I think they're really playing into that in a lot of interesting ways, and that she just openly ponders like, maybe I should just like give myself up to Ironwood so that like people don't have to fight as much. Like, I think it's really interesting that they're like I don't know, that they're giving her this sort of like, they're giving her so much, so many opportunities to sort of doubt herself and doubt the people around her.
When she was fighting against the Aesops, and they were like, how could you do this to Winter? How could you steal the power from her? And you could see that really hit Penny.
Yeah.
I was like, I would love to see that play out. I would love to see Penny and Winter have a conversation this volume. Because it would break my heart.
It's like Ironwood and his team know that, like, if you have to get to Penny, the way to do it is basically to just, like, she really does care about protecting people, and, like, sort of the running theme through volumes like 7 and 8 is that, like, if you're forced to make like really hard choices in a desperate situation, you can make a choice that like helps some people at the cost of hurting other people potentially. And so I think it's like an interesting tie back into that theme.
Mm-hmm.
I think Penny is a character they really nailed internal and external conflict with this volume. Now that I've said that, I cannot wait for them to fuck it up in the second half of it.
Gotta prompt it right correctly.
But I think like a lot of Penny's dialogue is, and the things she's struggling with within herself, and the things she's struggling with kind of in her place within Team Rainbow, I suppose, although she's not really included in that, and her team within kind of the
Team
Rainbow.
Prainbow?
Awful.
Nibbo. Yeah, Prainbow's better.
Painbow.
Painbow?
Painbow's pretty good though.
Here's the R!
Whatever. It's fine.
Speaking of the R, that's another great thing for Penny in this volume, is the nuts and bolts is through the roof shipwise.
Oh,
like,
my God.
Could they be more love?
For the love of God, let them kiss.
I know. Like 3 hugs in a row. I was losing my goddamn mind. Bumblebee who? It's all nuts and bolts now.
If we get a nuts and bolts kiss before a Bumblebee kiss, the timeline will go insane. It'll be feral.
God. I will never stop laughing. I will be just like on the floor if that happens.
I would really unironically enjoy.
What?
Yeah, I like the nuts and bolts agenda.
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
Gamer GF energy.
I want to also give a little props again, as Pug said, with of course the expectation that it might just get fucked up in the second half. But I really like this idea where, and they're doing it without of obviously like very explicitly saying it, I think, where Penny up till this season hasn't had to really make her own decisions, or she wasn't like able to. And now that has these powers, it's kind of forced her to be in a position where she has to decide what she thinks is best. Because before she was listening to what Ironwood was saying or what her father was saying, and now there's a lot of decision making that she's really explicitly doing. Like she's the one that says like I'm going when they're going to go on the mission to hack the Ironwood's mainframe. And then again, Cinder, like when they're having their maiden bullfight, Penny has this moment where she's like, no, I'm choosing to do this. But even she isn't like super sure of it too. So you can see that she's like really struggling with this kind of new idea that like being like a person with like your own like will, because now she's made it feels very much like it's like the she's a real girl kind of metaphor is coming into play. And she's really figuring out that that means she has to make a lot of hard decisions for herself and for other people now that she has this huge responsibility. I think they're handling it really well without being like Penny saying, I have to make choices now. And they're doing a good job kind of like suddenly playing into that she's never really had to do that before.
I also think this ties into, even though like there's some issues, again, with contrivance, with her getting hacked, which is that I think kind of naturally sets up a point where like she has to resist her own programming through her force of will and through her humanity to allow her to break free from that.
What if, and hear me out here, Ruby breaks her free by kissing her on her stupid mouth?
Please.
Love
Please. Oh, let them kiss. Let them kiss.
We know how to animate that now.
Yeah.
We can do it.
We have the technology.
All right. As with any RWBY podcast, we got to talk about fights because that's what people watch this show for, allegedly. There were a few fights so far, and I think overall they've been pretty good. Starting with Penny versus the Aesops. We talked about that a tiny bit before, but did anyone have a particularly strong reaction to this one?
Ooh, the visceral reaction when they pull her knife free, like, oh my god, that like shook through me. It was painful. And like they rip it out of her back, kind of. Yeah, that was very upsetting. The fight was
I thought
cool.
it was a really good fight. I think it's a really good. There's a really good mix of Penny using her already established powers with her maiden powers now. You have here that it like suffers from like the 4v1 problem where it's. I would usually take a problem with it, but actually because the Aesops are established to be very bad at working together previously, I don't see much issue with like one person attacks, then the next person attacks. Because to me, it reads very much like they just don't understand how to like fight together, and so I don't have a lot of issue when like that is happening in this fight.
Consistency.
Yeah, keeping it consistent that they cannot all attack at the same time.
Maria?
Yeah, agreed. I'm not like a huge fight scene person in general. I'm still kind of just in general, especially the fights this volume. I'm still kind of. I'd like them to address some stuff with the maiden powers, particularly as it relates to Penny, because like, I guess is it something that like she has to train at in order to like be able to harness it better, or because I mean Penny's already really OP, and I feel like giving her the maiden powers would just make her like insanely OP, but that's not really what we see in the fights. And Cinder has been pretty, I don't know, I feel like the maiden powers that we've seen in the past have been pretty, like, OP, and they're not really that with Penny yet, but I don't know if, is that, like, a thing, like, oh, she just got the powers, so she can't, like, harness them to their full potential yet? I would love to know kind of what's going on there.
Yeah, I think the one issue... The issue with the maiden powers, I think, has always been that they're in this weird soft magic space where... they're not super well defined. We know that they can basically control the elements, but there aren't really any limits. There aren't clear limits on them, and they just sort of do whatever needs to be done at any given moment. And it does make for some cool visuals, which, I mean, I appreciate because it brought a lot of, like, spectacle to the fights that we wouldn't get otherwise, but it is a little frustrating from, like, a lore perspective of, like, okay, how does any of this shit actually work?
Yeah, in Cinder, it's like almost the opposite because, you know, in volume 3, she's insanely powerful, and then she's kind of getting, well, maybe she has internal conflict that's causing this or something, but like she's getting her ass beat consistently, and she's a maiden, so I don't really know.
Do you think her Grimm parts are at odds with her maiden powers, though?
Oh, that could be it too.
Yeah,
I don't really know, like, but Cinder, like, where's her, what's her semblance? What's the maiden power? The Grimm is a little more clear, but, like, we never see her without the maiden power, really. So I was always kind of, like, a little unclear on what Cinder's power levels kind of really are.
Speaking
her
of...
semblance, it turns out, is awfully close to the maiden powers as well. Like,
yeah, they're both, like, kind of fiery.
Yeah. You know what I think would be cool is if they take Penny to the Vacuole arc and she meets the Summer Maiden and she gets a kind of scene like Ruby got with Maria in volume 6 where they kind of like tete-a-tete about what their powers mean in training and stuff like that. I would love to see something like that.
We know, like, because from what we've seen of Freya, where they say, like, oh, she's a fully realized maiden. I mean, like, this lady's on death's door and she, like, just kicks ass without barely having to move a finger. So, like, we know what they can be.
Fully realized does imply, like, there's training to be done as well, too, right?
Yes.
Like,
yeah, but not for Penny, just for Cinder.
Oh.
Leave her alone. She's doing her best.
Speaking of Cinder, let's talk about Maiden Bowl 3. Okay, look.
She's doing her best.
Look, I get it.
She is.
I get it. We're sick of seeing Cinder get her ass kicked. But goddamn, this was so fun to watch.
You want Cinder getting her ass kicked?
I'm not sick of it at all.
She wins and kills everybody. Like, that's why Cinder has to lose. Is because if Cinder wins, everybody dies.
I think that there's a balance, though. I mean, I don't mind seeing villains get their ass kicked, but at no point do I think anyone is under threat from Cinder. There's no stakes. I know Cinder is just there to buy time for whatever actually, like, the plot point is supposed to be. So it's just not... I mean, at least in the other Maiden Bowls, it, like, you weren't exactly sure who the winner was going to be. And in this one, it's so evidently clear. I don't think that, like, Cinder is going to walk away victorious at all.
That's fair. That's because the fight of that Maiden Bowl was really Maria and Neo.
Yes!
That was my favorite fight of the volume so far.
Loved that. It was so refreshing to see Neo get her ass beat finally.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
Even if, like, Penny dealt the final blow, like, finally someone is a match for Neo, and it's the little old lady.
Whatever, the Grim Reaper held her own.
I loved them giving Maria a fight because, I don't know, I don't like having a character in such, like, a fight-based show, or, like, such an action-heavy show, who, like, how do I put that? Like, I mean, it's not that you can't have a character who never gets into a fight, or, like, can't pull their weight in a fight, but I think...
She was the greatest huntress of her generation. We got to see her fight.
So I think having them set that up and then, like, never having her fight would have been, like, really unsatisfying. So to have her, like, get back into it. And also it was just, like, a ton of fun to see her, like enjoying herself and getting back into the swing of it after all these years. Like, it's a nice callback to a piece of backstory that they could have easily just dropped and never come back to, you know?
Yeah, because there is the implication that Maria had kind of given up before she ran into Ruby, right? Like, I like her, like, finding her roots again. Like,
yeah, because she
Maria
was so... She was like, what was it? She was like so sort of defeated without the silver eyes that she felt like she could never fight again. And
yeah, exactly.
So only for her to realize that no, she can, like, she's still got it.
Yeah, she's kicking Neo's ass. It's amazing because no one's ever done that before.
Right?
I have a critique. Because I was watching Maiden Bowl 3 specifically, I was, like, realizing something where Cinder getting her ass beat is always hilarious to me, and this one in particular, for some reason, was really funny because the way she gets defeated is just so like harsh and like damn, that burns so bad, because it's like the Pokemon double team thing, but Penny's a robot, so it like Penny can so easily tell which one is actually Cinder that she just destroys her instantly, like right as Cinder is probably feeling extremely confident. And I was wondering if there's like this issue with RWBY fights where the end result they have like planned out really well, but the way they get to it is obviously a little more ambiguous because they have to like choreograph it and everything. But this was like kind of an issue with, I think, the Crow, Tyrion, Clover fight last season, where they had the end result, but like the actual fight was not very well like executed, and it was just kind of confusing. And like the reason this Cinder defeat to me is just so much like worse than the other ones is because the way she gets defeated is just so brutal that it's kind of like she could not have been defeated in a more like sad way like the way she like got defeated in this fight, I think. And there's like the fight with like Maria and Neo is cool because it's kind of a surprise to see that Maria is still able to hold her own, but it does like Neo does get like knocked out, but it like the fight between Maria and Neo is the one that technically wins because Neo's like standing over her about to like defeat her. But for most of the fight, Maria is the one that's winning. So it's really like weird, and I think there's like just a lot of like disconnect between like the end result that they need to get to and then like the actual fight that is happening on screen. And it's kind of making some of the reactions to the fights a little strange for me. Because like Cinder losing, it's it's really frustrating not seeing Cinder as like someone that can get anything done, and this did not help with that at all. This fight, like in general, feels like why did it have to happen at all? Except to see Cinder lose again. Like that literally feels like what the reason for this fight was to me. And I just don't know if it's just like a more consistent problem that has been happening for a while, and it's just now starting to become a lot more obvious.
I do think Cinder lost in that scene so that we could get that scene with Emerald as a result of it. And like, I'll do that trade because that was amazing when she's
Isn't the whole point of this scene so they miss the window for launching the tower, and then Penny has to like make the sacrifice to get it up there herself? Isn't that the whole?
But I think Cinder's ass kicking in that scene was for us to see the Emerald moment. I think that in general, obviously the scene is their window.
It accomplishes multiple points.
Or nothing.
Well, the thing is, they still get the message out, so it's kind of like they still get the message out, and they could have gotten it out if like Cinder hadn't been there too. And then like Penny gets like corrupted, but that was happening anyways. So I mean, it feels like another like similar to like why the teams have to split up. It's like, why did this fight have to happen? I really don't know.
I agree. I think Cinder's presence does absolutely nothing to affect the stakes, and it's just a fight. But it makes Cinder's character suffer so much. I absolutely agree with you. Yeah.
So it's just not a great. It's not a win-win situation by any means.
I have thoughts about how this affects Cinder's characterization, but I'm going to save that for a different slide for reasons. Another scene. One last scene we get on this slide is the Ren, Yang, and Jean chase sequence with the Hound, which I actually thought was a really cool bit of, I don't know if you would call it choreography, since they were mostly on, like, the bikes the whole time, but, like, I thought it was, like, a nice change of pace, and brought some really cool visuals to the table.
I agree. And Ren getting thrown around the whole time, 10 out of 10. Really enjoyed it.
It's nice to see Yang on a bike again.
Yes.
The little face when she sees the bikes is so precious.
Oh my god, yes. It reminded me a bit of, like, it felt very, like, video gamey, but in, like, a good way. Like, not in a way that, like, took me out of the show, but it reminded me of, like, a portion of a video game where they put you on, like, some kind of speeder and have you go through an obstacle course.
It's a RWBY vibe, though. It always kind of feels like a video game.
Exactly. It is just Video Game the movie for a game that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Still adjusting to my new setup. Okay. Regrettably, we must discuss Ironwood.
I kind of just find him boring this volume. I'm like, whatever, Ironwood, you're evil, whatever. Yeah.
All right, Pug, air your grievances.
I'm just so disappointed. I'm so disappointed. It just feels like we had this really nuanced character, and everyone's going to be like, but they were telegraphing this. They were foreshadowing it the whole time. You can foreshadow something, have it happen, and still manage some nuance, but they just were like, nope, that doesn't feel relevant at all now. Who cares? But I think really at the end of the day, and this is, something we've been hinting at a lot, all that had to happen was that the Atlas military had to be protecting Atlas, and that's the reason he makes this decision, right? Like that is actually the point. And now that I see that it was a point A to point B decision, I'm a little less disappointed. It just sucks that a character I didn't ever agree with, but I did like, and then I did enjoy watching his arc, just totally gets tossed aside just to kind of further the plot in this disappointing way.
It's interesting that people say that him being bad is telegraphed the whole time, but I think that like his nuance is what's also been telegraphed the whole time, right? Like kind of balance between like fascist Ironwood and thoughtful Ironwood. Like it's true, if they didn't want to have nuance, why did they have that volume 4 scene where he kind of is like Weiss's little hero for a moment and like stuff like that? It's a strange journey they've taken him on.
I mean, hot take, they threw nuance out with him when he shot Oscar.
Agree.
Yep.
I shot Oscar though, so I don't agree.
Well, this is okay, but this is the thing though. Like when he shoots Oscar, we're like, yeah, he shot a child, and it's like fun and exciting. But here he's shooting just like the councilman, so we're like, ooh,
Yeah,
like that feels gross.
somebody
here's
this time.
the problem is Oscar is like, in the context of the story, Oscar is a legitimate threat to Ironwood in the sense that he is like both a emotional and like physical force that can like change Ironwood's opinion. And the moment he shoots him, Ironwood is like really trying to not listen to anyone but himself at that point.
Yeah, that's like him going over the edge is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's saying like I reject this worldview 100%.
He's shooting an actual like threat to his ideology. When he shoots the councilman, this councilman has literally he does have a technically political power, but in the context of the story, we don't really like, I mean, I don't think about the councilman as anyone with any kind of power personally, because Ironwood is the one that controls the military. Ironwood is actually...
He has 2 votes on the council.
His ass is so fat, he gets 2 seats on the council.
Ironwood could have literally shot, like, anyone, and I would have been like, that was too much. Because, like, the councilman is not, like, a threat. Ironwood could have been like, just take him outside, or, like, get him out of here. But he shot him instead, which is kind of like, Ironwood did not need to, like, shoot him in the face to, like, just get him out of here.
Just to confirm, I just want to back up one whole second. I'm hearing correctly that you're defending Ironwood shooting Oscar? You specifically?
I'm saying in the context of, like, the story, like, to me, it makes a lot more sense than Ironwood shooting the councilman. Because,
no,
like,
I agree. I'm on your side here. I think a threat versus someone who disagreed with him is a very different thing, right? So, like, I definitely see what you're saying.
No, I agree. I'm just surprised that.
Oh, I mean,
you
no,
are saying it.
Because of the Oscars stuff. No, yeah. I thought it was great. The moment I think Ironwood shoots Oscar is amazing. I think it was like a really good character moment for both of them. And I mean, I like Oscar, but I mean, I will take like him having an interesting story over him like being, I don't know, like safe any day.
I think the problem with Ironwood is that I think when we were watching the last volume, because so much of it is sort of watching him, like, it's showing you the nuance in his character and showing you, like, the good in him and how, like, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, yada, yada, yada. Like, it showed us all of the really interesting sides of his character, and then I think the intention was to end that season with him basically being faced with a choice of, like, you can choose the option where you sort of decide to, like, you try to save everyone, and sort of, like, put aside, what am I trying to say here? You can either take the option where you, like, try to save everyone and be sort of, like, have, like, hope in a way that he doesn't have, or be cynical and say, like, okay, I have to sacrifice all these people to save basically my ass. And the moment when he shoots Oscar is, I think, supposed to be him, like, crossing the threshold and saying, like, no, like, I'm just gonna be a dictator now. Like, I'm done listening to anyone else. And so,
like Cassandra in the series.
I don't know. Studio Trigger has, like, a lot of those types of villains, and they're interesting, and Ironwood is just no longer, so.
I do think that the show is going to try to pull Ironwood back. I think
agree.
it's going to be highly divisive when it happens.
I
think it's on my card. It's on my card.
Personally, I think he's going to die, but that's just me.
Hey, those two things. Listen, have you ever seen a Star Wars movie? Those two things happen at the same time.
He's gonna, like, redeem himself.
Volcano Lost Dose.
All right, let's talk about. This is the Cinder backstory episode that we have been waiting for many a moon. Pug.
I love this episode. I'm surprised by
So, okay, Pug, you are, I feel like, the person who really wants to like Cinder and is constantly disappointed by what they do with her. So were you also horribly disappointed by this episode?
I just have a question. When people say that they're disappointed, are they disappointed by, like, the things that happen are not satisfying, or I just want to, like, read the room a little bit on it first?
So the impression I got, at least from reading reactions on Twitter, and, like, Tumblr to a lesser extent, because people on Tumblr tend to be a little more positive, was basically that I think the problem was that one of the most common complaints with this show is that they didn't give Cinder any backstory. I personally never felt like she needed a ton of backstory at any given time. Like, it didn't, like, her motivations felt clear to me, even if they were a little generic. But, like, that was something that people had been waiting for, and I think the assumption was that if we were waiting so long for Cinder's backstory, it has to be something really explosive that no one could have saw coming. And instead, what we got was something that I think a lot of people saw coming, which is basically Cinderella. But it's evil and fucked up, which is her character. So I think a lot of people were disappointed. It's like, okay, well, if this is her backstory, why didn't you just give it to us sooner? Like, it's sort of too little too late, you know? Like, this isn't interesting enough for you to, like, withhold it from us for so long.
This is the volume where they want us to sympathize with Cinder, I think, is why they did it.
Yeah, that's my perspective. I think they're dropping it here because Cinder is about to go through a change to her character that we need a little bit more background to understand where she's coming from on.
I am interested to see what happens in the second half of the volume, just for Cinder, though. Like, they do have her on a trajectory this volume, I think.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think what I like about this backstory, even if it is, like, something that people could have seen coming, is that it, like, A, it makes explicit a lot of things that, like, were already implied about Cinder, but it just sort of clears it up. B, it does, like, some nice world building in terms of Atlas and showing, like, how the huntsmen act in Atlas and how Atlas society is organized to sort of, like...
Is that in Atlas? Is that confirmed that it's in Atlas, that flashback episode?
I'm pretty sure it is.
I don't know why I had it in my head that she was from Mistral.
I think she was from Mistral, but she was taken to Atlas.
Like, why do people think it's Atlas and Midnight other than the hotel is fancy, is what I want to know.
I don't know.
I think there's an exterior shot.
Racism?
There's faunus racism in Mistral. It's like Mistral's famous for the faunus racism. In fact, we see it more there in the Mistral arc than we do in the Atlas one.
We see a sign.
Yeah.
We also see the sign here, but I think, like, to me, what I'm getting out of this episode is Cinder's trajectory is that she is, she spends a lot of time sort of following, like, sort of taking commands from someone above her, sort of like like, how do I put this? Sort of getting stronger and sort of like patiently waiting for her moment. But then when her moment doesn't come in the way that she wanted to, she snaps, And I think a lot of her whole theme of just constantly getting her ass kicked in every fight is supposed to parallel her backstory in that she is she's like Salem's foot soldier. Salem clearly does not care about her in the same way that, like, the lady at the hotel does not care about Cinder's well-being at all. She's just sort of a tool for her. And so her having to constantly get punished for, like, her actions and trying to pursue her own power, I think it's like building to her snapping in some way, and I'm really interested to see, like, how that culminates and what that's going to look like. I don't know if
I just
anyone...
hope that when she snaps, she takes Neo and Emerald with her.
I don't know. Did you guys have any, like... I mean, this is obviously just, like, my take on it. Did you guys have any...
I wanted to let Pug talk some interesting, but I have something to add after, maybe.
So I was this is the first volume that I watched week to week, and I did not like watching it week to week, and I stopped watching it, and then I saved up some episodes to, like, binge, hoping that I would like it better that way. I stopped watching, and then I got a message from Min the next week that was like, you stopped watching on the Cinder backstory. And I was like, great. So let me go and catch up on that. So I watched it. I think it's a little underwhelming in the sense that, not that I think the events are underwhelming. I think not showing us for a long time makes us anticipate something big, which I agree about the placement. If it's relevant now, showing it now is fine. But I also don't need villains to have, like, these crazy big backstories to be interesting. I think Cinder just, like, being kind of a victim of circumstances and not being able to work her way out of it is, like, a much more kind of reasonable backstory for her. And right, we all knew it was going to be Cinderella, so what were you really expecting? That being said, I took a peek on Twitter, which was a mistake. And I saw a lot of people talking about the abuse Cinder endured was not a good enough reason for her actions now. And I really had to nope out of that really quickly, because I'm not interested in talking about, like, someone that's gone through abuse and, like, what's okay for their actions and what's not okay for their actions. Specifically people that are, like, too anxious to make a phone call, but, like, are cool with posting dates on Twitter. So I agree it's a little underwhelming, but I honestly think it really works for her. And I think those two things could exist at once. Like, maybe it was withheld a little too long, but this is the first place that it felt like it was really going to work. And it's just kind of, the cyberpunk issue of our expectations were too big.
Yeah, I think that's actually a lot of things with Volume 8, is that I think because Volume 7 left off with a lot of ambiguity and with such an insane cliffhanger, it left a lot of room for people to speculate wildly, and so when the show decided to go in a different direction, even if you can sort of, like, lay it out on paper and it makes sense, it can still feel underwhelming.
Yeah, and she's had tons of lines with the, like, I fought for everything I've had thing. Is kind of Cinder against the world, or that's how she views it. Even the tension with her relationship with Salem has kind of been foreshadowed. So I don't know what people were expecting, I guess. But I don't think some insane backstory that would, like, help justify Cinder killing Pyrrha would have been satisfying either.
I think that would have overwhelmed me. I would have been like, this is very convoluted for something I know we're never going to revisit. If it had been, like, an extreme backstory.
Agreed.
I wanted to add, because I was thinking about this, and Cinder is interesting, not in, like, not as a character to me, but as in like how she was introduced into the show. Because in volumes like 1 through 3, we know Cinder as like the big bad, but even though like she actually isn't, but we're not like really aware of that in volumes like 1 through 3. And I feel like when you're the big bad, you get away with, a lot because you're kind of just assumed to be this force of unstoppable evil. But then in volume 4, it switches really dramatically where, like, no, suddenly Salem is the big bad, and Cinder is put into this position of being, like, the emotional, quote-unquote, villain, where she is, like, actually really complex and has a lot going on with her that we don't know about. And, like, the issue with that is suddenly you are forced to, like, almost, like, justify why your emotional villain is acting like this, because they're the one that is supposed to make the viewer, I guess, like empathize with the villains in a certain way, or like relate to them a little better and understand where they're coming from, at least. Not in the sense like what they're doing is okay to do, but like you understand like why they're doing what they're doing. I'm really curious to see more of Cinder's backstory, because to me, I don't really think this was unsatisfying, but it doesn't feel like enough to me. Like, it definitely needs more, but I think where they've like put it right now, it is like, I'm glad we're at least getting something. And to me, again, I was watching this episode and being like, oh, of course her backstory is just literally Cinderella. I don't know what I expected.
Yeah, I was like, this is exactly what I expected it to be, and nothing more.
I was like, who could have foreseen this coming? But I thought it was like fine, and to me, it anytime you have like a flashback episode where you're trying to justify a whole character in one episode, it's just like not gonna like go over great. You need more time than that, and so I'm really hoping they're gonna have more this season, or like in the next season, about her backstory again, because this is just like nowhere near enough for me to really get behind to like, okay, this is how she became the person she is today.
I'd be interested in seeing how she met Salem.
Yeah, that's really the thing. I'm like, what is like the change from her kind of killing her abusive family, and then like suddenly it's like the Hazel thing. It's like, what at what point was she like, I'm going to destroy the world now? Or because that's like it's a huge jump, so it really has to be like fleshed out a little bit more if Cinder is going to be this emotional villain rather than like this kind of like big bad that doesn't really have any sense of like moral decency.
I feel like her thing with Salem just feels like a natural progression from where we left off at the end of this episode, in the sense that like Cinder is someone who has experienced nothing but cruelty from the world. So she was like, her upbringing was extremely cruel. The position she was brought into once she was adopted by the hotel woman was extremely cruel. And then even after she, at least in her mind, escaped from that cruelty, the one person who was actually nice to her, which was the huntsman, I think his name is Rhodes in the credits, he then turns on her and tries to kill her. So, like, I think it makes sense for her to be sort of just, by default, spiteful and willing to just like lash out at everyone and just view everyone as like a potential enemy, because like the world has never shown her kindness, and she feels no need to show kindness back that she's never received. And I think what she does want is she just wants one person to like actually lift her up and help her and like put her in a better position, because no one has ever done that for her, and everyone who has promised that has then turned on her. And so it makes, like, to me, it makes perfect logical sense that she then goes to Salem, because Salem also is extremely spiteful and also just wants to watch the world burn, because she feels like she's just gotten nothing but cruelty from it, and B offers to lift her up and make her more than what she is. So it all just ties together really nicely for me.
We're referring to it as like the Cinder backstory, but it's truly just half the Cinder backstory, right? We need the other piece of like how does the cycle of abuse become perpetuated by her relationship with Salem. And I think that piece is potentially as important as the piece we got, and I think it might feel a lot more satisfying for people once we have all of the connective tissue.
Yeah, and we're starting to get that now. Speaking of, we're starting to get that now.
I cannot believe in my house.
Am I wrong?
Oh, fine.
Go off, Queen.
Okay, a really long time ago, I sent Min a message that was something along the lines of when Cinder calls Salem like the evil stepmother character instead of being the evil stepmother character that is bound to be in her backstory, I will pretend I do not see it. Now that we have the backstory, I still feel that way about it. I think it's a really strong parallel. I think the backstory is kind of just laying the pieces for what we're doing now. Cinder's loyalty makes me nervous. I'm very, very nervous for Cinder. Cinder leaving Salem's side is fine. Cinder somehow finding herself on Ruby's side will make me immediately drop the show. Maria and I can have a party when he's dead and Cinder's on the good side and watch some other show together.
Lol. I think it's more likely that Cinder has some sort of, like, I don't want to say, like, redemption in death, but I think it's more likely that she breaks from Salem in a way that gets her killed.
I think that she's not going to die, but she'll be stripped of her powers.
That could go somewhere. I don't know. Okay, let's talk about what the actual subject of this slide is, because this is a podcast, and that was... the laughing at the beginning was a visual gag, because the name of the slide is the slide where Pug complains about the villains. Basically, another big thing that's going on this volume is we're spending a lot of time hanging out in the Whale, seeing what Salem and Team Witch are up to. So the first point was that we're developing a little bit of Salem and Cinder's relationship, which again kind of parallels some points from Cinder's backstory. Mercedes, do you have any feelings on this point?
On the parallel, I mean, I think we just talked pretty extensively about the parallels between Salem and Cinder's backstory.
Yeah, actually, you know what? This might have been a redundant bullet point. Do we feel like we've covered all this ground here?
I wanted to ask, do people... Because when I'm watching Salem and Cinder, to me it feels very much like Cinder is, like, feigning loyalty to Salem. I don't know if anyone else is reading it like that.
I did slightly... Okay, in Cinder's backstory, I kind of read it that way at the end, and then she pulls her back under. Like, I think that sometimes Cinder questions, but ultimately she gets sucked back into it, like, in the end, kind of.
Like, she doesn't see a real way out. She doesn't see another option for herself.
And I think she still thinks she can get what she wants. I think she questions it sometimes, and I think that Cinder sometimes thinks she's playing the game better than she actually is. Like, she thinks that maybe she's manipulating Salem, but that's clearly not the case. But I just feel so bad for Cinder in the last couple episodes of this volume, though. Like, she's so bummed out.
Yeah, part of me is really wondering if Cinder has some kind of like mastermind plan, which, I mean, judging by the way her mastermind plans have gone in the past, it seems like it's not going to work out well. But I mean, to me, this volume in particular, I'm really reading it a lot of their interactions. Like, Cinder has some kind of agenda that she's hiding from Salem. Whether or not she'll be able to pull that off, or what it even is, like, I am very, like, unsure about. But that is kind of, like, what I'm gathering most between their interactions this volume.
But should that be the case, that's a really interesting parallel between Cinder and Salem and Emerald and Cinder, because this is also the volume where we see Emerald start to question Cinder a bit, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think we're kind of at a point now. Okay, I kind of have this joke that, like, the term redemption arc has been horribly overused. I think we talked about this actually in the Volume 5 podcast, and I think it's kind of at this point where, like, whenever a villain is shown to have the slightest bit of emotional complexity, everyone in the fandom starts going like flip, 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 flip. And I don't think that's really productive because most villains are not designed to do that. But I do think that there are a few characters in Salem's crew who we've now seen explicitly start to doubt her, and I wonder how far they're going to take that.
I think Emerald has always been intended to flip at some point, like from the beginning.
I think she's definitely been given a lot of lead up in that department. I think Hazel's another really obvious one, but mostly because he sucks and would make...
I think he is too, but he's boring, so who cares?
Yeah.
I don't give a shit
Hard
about
agree.
Hazel. I don't give any shits about Hazel. I hate him. He sucks.
Yeah, fuck Hazel.
But however, I will say, him punching Oscar over and over again, very funny.
Funny. Thank you.
We love to see a child in danger.
What's worse than a hero? A child hero.
Yes.
This is Oscar's first attempt at like Machiavellianness, though. Like, good for him. He's trying to.
Yeah, I like that they're giving Oscar another dimension of like actually trying to make some moves here.
What I found interesting was that was him standing up to Ozpin in his mind, being like, "No, Oz, let me take care of this." I was like, "Oh, interesting, Oscar. Little man's got some long pants."
I will also say, actually, while we're on the subject of Oscar, one scene I actually really liked was when Oscar is talking to Ozpin while they're leading the people from Mantle to the crater, where Oscar has this moment where he's like, I don't want to become you because I'm actually becoming the person that I want to be now. Like, Oscar feels like a more realized character and is now having to sort of deal with something we touched on a bit in the 7 podcast, which is the idea of like the inherent horror of becoming someone else. We were talking about that more in like a shipping context, but even on like an individual level, there is something like kind of uniquely terrifying about that, where like fearing that you will no longer be the person you are, especially when you like the person you are so much now.
I have a question about... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, it's just like tangentially related, but I was like thinking, how much of the past Maidens are in the current Maidens?
I mean,
Like
based
the
on how Cinder acts, I'm guessing not much.
Yeah, I know. They kind of lightly. What do you? They like lightly alluded to it before, but then I was like, how much is it? Because in that case, then the only person who could really understand Oscar right now is another Maiden. But if it's not there at all, then never mind.
Yeah, I don't think it works like that.
Where does that Pyrrha and Cinder theory come from then?
What's the Pyrrha and Cinder theory?
That like Pyrrha lives in Cinder now.
Oh. I think that's
Because
just
of Maidenhead.
usual fan theory shit. You know how
Yeah.
it goes.
Desperation.
Atlas Ball.
As a Maiden, okay, the Atlas Ball could still happen, and here's why.
All right. Does anyone else have any particular takes on how they're handled? Actually, wait. You know what? One thing I really like this volume is every time they cut to Neo and she has a look on her face like, what the fuck have I gotten myself into?
Oh my god, when the hound is like up in her face and she looks like she wants to punch it. That was good.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any other takes on like how what's going on with the villains right now and what direction we think we're going in here.
Mercury Black has gone full douche on the worst road trip of all time with Tyrion.
Was he ever not full douche?
Extremely valid point.
You don't think that chaotic...
kind of charm me, you know? And now I'm like, whatever, Mercury.
I always thought that, like, I feel like a fool now for thinking that Mercury could flip, because I thought it was like, he's always seemed kind of apathetic, like he's just sort of going along with whatever opportunities are presented to him, and so as soon as he was presented with, like, a better option, he would just leave. I now feel stupid for saying that, because it's obvious that he just doesn't, like...
he currently thinks this is the best option.
Yeah, he's just in too deep.
Oh,
I do like
he's
that he
100%
was like-
gonna flip at the very end of the show.
Oh, really?
How, I wonder, do you think his semblance is going to come back into play? And like, will that have anything to do with his flipping?
Huh, that's an interesting idea. I mean, we'd have to, that's getting into, like, will they give someone the power to, like, give people back their semblances, which is, like, I think too deep into, like, fan theory shit.
I think he'd have to unlock it again himself or figure out how to take it back himself. But if someone else's semblance is restoring semblances, then my head is even spinning. Like, that's a lot.
All right, do we think we've covered all the ground on this slide?
Oh, the one thing else about Mercury is that I do like when he was getting on the bus to Vacuo and he was like, please, Salem's not going to end the world. And Tyrion was like, buddy, of course she is.
Yeah, that moment
That's
was
not
really
why
funny.
you are here.
Like, literally, Tyrion was the only one who knew they were actually ending the world, and everyone else had a completely different idea.
Everyone's like, obviously it's a metaphor. End the world order. And Tyrion's like, no, honey.
No, we are literally killing everyone, including you.
Yeah.
Relationship with Cinder now ended. Tyrion is now my best friend.
You can have him.
Yeah, we've
Thank
been
you.
building up to that moment for a while.
Oh,
Uh,
I'm
The only
loving,
one I
I'm
trust.
loving the photo on this slide, by the way. This is
all right.
fun.
Well, we've got, before we move on to bets, we have some final points to address on just like little odds and ends on things that we liked or stood out to us. First of all, the animation just keeps getting better. Pug, you said you had some like particular like L&R things that stood out to you.
Yeah, there's this really amazing shot right before Ren delivers his ridiculous line about Jon cheating to get into the academy, where it's kind of like at dusk, it's, you know, Yang's hair is blowing the wind, there's some beautiful particle effects, and I just remember watching that and being like, this is a completely different show than when we first started, and I'm so glad that, like, you know, there is an L&R department now, and there is an effects department now, and I'm so proud of them.
Yeah, I think for all of like the contrivances in the writing we've pointed out, both from like a story perspective and a visual perspective, it's so fun. It's so bizarre to like go back and watch volume 1 and be like, I cannot believe this is the same goddamn show.
The lighting in that scene was super beautiful. I remember thinking that when I watched it too. Like, it was gorgeous.
We never could have had that moment in an earlier season, and you know, I know I shit on the animation a lot, but unfortunately the visuals do kind of hold you back in a way, and we're finally at the point where we can deliver these, you know, breathtaking emotional scenes with kind of the visuals that they deserve, and I'm just, you know, really happy for the animation team that they're able to achieve that.
Yeah. Also in that scene, I saw a bunch of people on my timeline changing their profile picture to the the Yang ass, which because there was like a shot of it where it looks more substantial than usual, and you know what, good for them, glad they got something out of it.
Everyone was just changing their pictures to a purple rod on my end. After that episode.
Christ. Bumblebee brain rot continues to be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, they make points with that. Yeah, Ruby episode though. That was a Bumblebee moment.
Yeah, Ruby. Other thing that happened is we finally got May Marigold being canonically trans as opposed to canonically trans according to Twitter posts. But no, it's in the text now. So yeah, hashtag representation win. Oh, another thing that I didn't put on another slide was the hound. So the hound has provoked, I think. Okay, first of all, I find it very funny, the scene where it just says no, and everyone just stands there completely stunned and unable to do anything as it, like, takes a full minute to sprout wings. But this has provoked some of the wildest fan theories I've seen in a long time.
They're all over the place.
I think the most common one I've seen is the hound is Summer Rose. Like, people think that, like, Summer has been transformed into a Grimm somehow, and that's why it's intelligent.
I think that was
sounds
a
like
joke
a marriage
when Rosen started running. Like, I don't think that was initially like a genuine theory. I think it just really took off.
I really hope it's a joke.
I know, it's bad.
The one that says that the hound is actually Roman, because I think that's hilarious.
That is lame.
That's good.
I kind of like that one because he gets...
just swallowed him and he's just like puppeteering from inside.
Yeah, like, it got eaten by a Grimm, and then, like, somehow that process can, like, turn him into a Grimm, but he's still got...
That's the only Chimera hound theory I like now, is that it's
That's literally Attack on Titan. Like,
Is it?
you eat, yeah,
The Grimm
you
are
eat it to
people
become
too.
it.
Yeah, we've all seen Attack on Titan. We've all seen Full Metal Alchemist. We've all seen My Hero. So I think all of these threads are not completely unfounded when we have a creature that could not talk before that now can talk. So
Yeah, this is just, I think you said this is literally just high-end Nomu.
yeah, I was like, we were watching it live, and I was like, wow, I bet he's gonna talk. And then I was like, wow, I bet he's gonna sprout some wings. And I was like, I've seen this before.
Another random point that we haven't spent a lot of time on in the show, but like is clearly going to be important at some point. Crow and Robin being stuck in jail. I think
keep forgetting about that.
Their conversation was actually kind of interesting, where Robin was drawing parallels with Crow in terms of like, people don't really want to get close to me either because I have the ability to read their minds. Well, not read their minds, but you know what I mean. Like, when you have the lasso of truth and the ability to like get into people's heads in a way that is uncomfortable, people don't want to get close to you. And like, I thought that was like an interesting dimension of like, I don't know. I think everyone just wants something good to happen to Crow, and I like the idea of like him getting a friend. Unless they're going to create a relationship here, in which case I am not on board for that.
No, it's May Marigold.
I fear
that
they're going
Robin's a lesbian, right? Though, like, Robin's not straight. Like, she can't have Crow.
She should be a lesbian.
I thought her and May Marigold were like a thing.
Her and Winter
What
She
about
were
the
gonna
sheep girl?
be a thing.
Oh yeah, we can't get... No, Fiona has a thing with that other girl whose name I forgot.
They're all
The
poly.
things on her face.
Joanna.
Yes, Polly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Polly.
Joanna. Yeah.
Polly Happy Huntresses. That's the way to
That's
go.
a good one, though. I do like Polly Happy Huntress.
Robin and her polycule.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And Crow, their token goth boy.
Something that Pug touched on earlier was the idea of the episode format not working for the show anymore. This might be... Okay, this is not a point of discourse I have seen online at all. This is just me and Pug having a very specific hang-up. But and from what it sounds like, she also feels like RWBY is a show that at least as of, I think, starting with Volume 4 and ever since then, is much, much, much better when you wait until the season is over and watch it all at once than it is if you're watching it week to week. Because it feels
I think
like...
it's always been that way. Especially because the early seasons, the episodes are like fucking 9 minutes long. I'm not waiting a week for 9 minutes of content. It's way better to watch the complete episodes.
I mean, I've always thought it would have been easier to watch... Okay, part of me wonders if it would have been easier to watch, like, some of the early seasons, like, week to week, in the sense that, like, if you hit, like, an episode that's being cringe, you can just sort of walk away from it from a while, and, like, it doesn't have to, like, sit in your mind for as long. But, I don't know.
I think the real issue is, and Min kind of touched on this, is that there are a lot of complaints in the later volumes, I guess, that watching it week to week, the plot does not move forward enough. And the reason for that is if you want to slow down and you want to have these kind of quiet moments where the characters talk, you're going to get a lot less done per episode. Now, when your episode was a big food fight and there wasn't a lot of that slowing down, it wasn't as relevant. The plot could move forward a lot quickly week to week in smaller episodes. I agree, since Volume 4, I think the show has truly outgrown the format. Where if you're watching week to week and you're kind of, you see the Hound introduction in one episode, you see the Oscar Hazel in another episode, the plot is just so slowly moving forward and not enough, quote unquote, enough action is happening per episode that it feels really stagnant. Now, when you just binge the later seasons, and maybe this is why I like the slower volumes that people bump up against, because I didn't have kind of that bad experience of watching them week to week. They fucking slap when you binge them, right? But I mean, even with this volume, I gave up. I was watching it live, getting up early on Saturdays, and I just truly got bored with it. It was just not enough. It was just not a satisfying experience. I don't know how I would rectify this because they've been using this format for so long, but I just wish that back in Volume 4, they had a conversation about, is our format truly helping our show or is it hurting it?
Yeah. This is really something that just, like, the two of us have, like, been milling on for a long time. But I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Other minor notes. We've got a new OP, as always. I think... Okay, I like this one... I like this one up until the point that they do Happy Never Again, because that's stupid. But other than that, I think it's good.
It's like a Vocaloid, it's like song MV when they do the Happy Never Again. I do not like this opening. I mean, like the song, I can barely remember what it sounds like. The freeze frame stuff that they do to me feels really strange, where they like freeze and then like some other character like is walking through it. It just does not work well with like 3D. It is.
Oh, there's a theory that the freeze is like an allusion to someone using the lamp at some point in the volume.
I suppose, but I mean, it doesn't look good visually.
You're like, whatever. How does it look to my face? That's fair.
Yeah.
I don't think I've liked an OP. I don't think I've loved an OP since 6. Like, I liked 7 and 8's okay, but I haven't like adored one since 6. I don't think.
I will say I get a lot of mileage out of that screenshot of Cinder grabbing her Grim arm as like a reaction image for like must resist the urge to post. Okay, as a podcast with a significant number of woolwolves, I would be remiss not to mention the sexiest scene in the show, which is when Winter says, "I outrank you" to Harriet.
I put this on the spreadsheet. Thank you.
Thank you for putting it on the spreadsheet.
It was we all had a moment when that happened.
I just think it would be neat if Winter and Harriet kissed.
Yes, they should smooch. I agree.
Yeah, or maybe once did back at the Atlas Academy.
You gotta write that fic, Merc. You gotta just get around to it.
I just want other people to get into it and write it for me, is what I decided.
Writing by proxy.
Yeah, exactly.
And finally, during that sequence where Ruby is reading the announcement on the whatever, the communications channels or whatever, and they cut to all the characters from earlier volumes.
Almost all the characters.
Okay, we'll get... yeah, I know. There was no Team Coffee cameo, and you were very disappointed about that.
Garbage.
Anyway, but they cut to a shot of Glenda Goodwitch, and they made her boobs bigger. And I appreciate that.
So, I have a friend who, in my like other Ruby discussion group, we were talking about like what's gonna happen the next episode before that episode airs, and he was like, "Glinda's coming back. I'm calling it now," just completely joking, and then he was right.
Oh,
amazing. Okay, I think we've covered most of the major points for what's happened thus far. I think we've thoroughly dished out our hottest of takes. The time has come to make our bets. So, here's how this works. Basically, I have assembled a list of 20 questions regarding what will happen over the course of the second half of Volume 8. All of the questions, but the last one, are multiple choice, which is a free-form answer. All of the questions are worth 1 point, except for the last one, which is worth up to 10. That will make sense when we get to it. And basically, I'm going to go around, I'm going to read out the question, I'm going to go around the horn, get answers from everybody, and then whoever has the most points by the end of Volume 8 will get a ship video from me. Do you all understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Are we ready to make some bets?
Oh, all right.
All right.
You know, back when it was going to be an unreasonable thing and I was trying to come up with those things, one of my options was removing the errors and omission category on the podcast.
What do you... Okay, hold on. You can't just drop a detail like that and then expect me to... Why do you hate errors and omissions?
It just feels like a lot of people get to voice their opinion and then it makes it into the podcast as fact.
You know, I mean, okay, it's part of it is corrections and part of it is presenting perspectives that we didn't address on the podcast. Because, like, there's only so many of us and we can only have so many opinions, and I think it's worthwhile to, like, address some perspectives that, like, address things that, like, other people got out of the show that we didn't see, because I think that's, like, useful for, like, critiquing it.
Yeah, I'll take my Haikyuu ship video. I'm just saying that was on the table.
All right, let's get started.
Unreasonable.
All right, let's do this. Here we go. Question 1. Who will use the lamp? Will it be A, Salem, B, Emerald, C, Hazel, D, some other person, or E, no one? Starting with Eli.
All right, I want to say I think it's gonna be Emerald, but however, I have a cool theory where somehow Neo like writes Jin's name out or like sign languages it, and then like Neo uses the language. I don't think that's gonna happen at all, but I was like, that would be really cool.
That would be
because it's like someone I would not expect at all.
That would be sick, but is B your final answer?
Yes, Emerald.
All right, Maria.
I'm leaning either Emerald or Hazel. Personally, hoping Emerald just because I don't give a shit about Hazel and I don't want him to have more screen time.
Lol.
So B, final answer.
Mercedes.
Oh, definitely B.
And Pug.
I'm gonna be a problem child and vote A.
Lovely.
You could win though. You could win this. Like you could win it all.
Question 2. Will Penny open the vault in Atlas? A. Yes, and Ironwood will get the staff. B. Yes, and Salem will get the staff. C. Yes, and Team RWBY and or their allies will get the staff. D. Yes, and someone else will get the staff. E. No. And for clarity, what I mean by get the staff is end up with the staff by the end of the volume. So if she takes it out and then Ironwood gets it and it immediately ends up in someone else's hands, that's who we're considering to get the staff. All right, let's go in reverse order this time. Pug.
C.
Mercedes.
A C also.
Maria.
I'm gonna say E, no.
And Eli.
E, no.
Okay. Next up.
Yeah.
Three.
How are you
wait.
awarding points if something happens that's not one of the options?
The
Do y'all lose?
So the questions are supposed to be written in a manner that like all of the potential options are covered, but in the event that it goes completely outside, then yes, everyone loses.
I was gonna say for the last one, I think the vault will open, but I don't think anyone is gonna like take it at the end.
Yeah, if the vault opens but no one actually goes into it, I'm counting that as E.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I don't think the staff is leaving its like place in what it's doing right now.
Yeah.
Like, I think the vault's gonna open and someone's gonna use the staff, but I don't think it's gonna end up going with anyone else.
Okay. We may if something like that happens, I can negotiate how we're interpreting that with you guys.
I don't want to win this. I don't think I actually want a Glee ship video to happen.
You need to think of a different prize. I'm sure there's a ship video you actually want that isn't just a punishment. Like there's other media you're interested in.
I don't want to actually make you do a Glee ship video.
All right, think of something after the podcast is over. We got to move on.
Cool, okay.
You should make her do a Homestuck video.
I already did a Homestuck video. Question 3. Will aid from the other kingdoms arrive?
I have a question about this one.
Pug, yes, go ahead.
Does it count if it's characters we already know?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Is it A?
One from any of the other kingdoms?
Yes. Will someone, at least one person, show up from outside Atlas or Mantle to help? A, yes, B, no. Eli.
Hardest of yeses.
Okay, there we go. Maria. Maria?
Oh, I said yes.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, Mercedes.
B, no.
And Pug.
Yes.
Okay. 4. Will Salem leave Atlas by the end of the volume? A, yes, B, no. Pug.
Yes. Wait, by the end of the volume? We're halfway through?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mercedes.
No.
Maria.
B, no.
Eli.
Yes.
5. Will Atlas fall in the same way that Beacon did, i.e., will it get overrun with Grim and abandoned? A, yes, B, no. Eli.
I think no, but also I wanted to say, because when I was thinking about what was going to happen, they're literally moving everyone into the crater beneath Atlas right now. And it's been established that once someone uses the staff, Atlas is just going to fall out of the sky.
Oh, no!
Yeah, I think it's gonna physically fall.
I was thinking, like...
Christ.
But I think no, it's not gonna like fall as a system.
All right, Maria.
Agreed. I think it's gonna fall out of the sky, but I don't think it's gonna be like Beacon.
All right, so you think it's no. Mercedes?
Yeah, I also think it's gonna fall out of the sky, but not necessarily fall to pieces. So B, no.
And Pug, your B as well.
B as well, because I want Winter to take over.
Lovely. Don't we all? Number 6. Will Cinder get Penny's maiden powers? A, yes. B, yes, but something terrible will happen to Cinder right afterwards. C, no. D, no and Cinder dies. Pug.
C, no.
Fuck. God damn
And
it.
nobody else matters.
I was on the wrong tab. Mercedes.
B, no. Also, B is mean.
Maria.
B, no.
Eli.
I think A, yes.
Hot takes. 7. Which of these characters will defect from Salem? The way that this question works is you can pick one or more answer, and if you are right on multiple characters, you get multiple points. So you get 1 point for every one you guess correctly if there are multiple correct answers, if that makes sense.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If they are like, I don't trust in Salem anymore, but then they die right after. Is that still counting as defecting?
If they rebel and then die because they went against Salem, I will count that.
Okay.
Your options are A, Emerald, B, Hazel, C, Neo, D, Cinder, E, none of them. Eli.
I think Emerald and Neo only.
A and C. Maria.
And A and C as well.
Mercedes.
Ooh, I'm E for this volume.
Pug.
B, Hazel.
8.
Like, I think he'll be dead, but
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I was
reasonable.
wondering, like, will he just die right after he defects? Or maybe, I don't know.
That's a very real possibility. All right. Question.
I think they're gonna make it look like Hazel's about to switch, and then he flips and chooses Salem at the last minute. And we're supposed to like
God.
be overwhelmed by it, but it'll suck.
All right. Question number 8. Which of these characters will defect from Ironwood? Same format as before. Your options are A, Winter, B, Marrow, C, one or more of the other Aesops, and they don't count for 1 point each. It's like if Harriet, Elm, or Vine defect, that counts for 1 point, even if it's all of them. D, none of them. Pug.
okay, I'm sorry to have a question.
Hit me.
If Ironwood is no longer in charge of Atlas and these people continue to work for Atlas, does that count as defecting?
If none of them defect from Ironwood before he loses control of Atlas, be that because he dies or gets put in jail or whatever, then it doesn't count. Then no one gets any points. Then it becomes D. Then
order. That's a different thing.
Then the answer is D, none of them. If none of them defect from him before he loses power.
And what if, let's say, one of them is the reason he loses power? That doesn't count as defecting either.
That counts as defecting.
If they rebel,
I have
on
another
him
question,
in any
too.
way, is kind of what you're saying.
If
When you say, oh, sorry, keep going.
no, you can finish your question.
Oh, I was just gonna say, when you say defect, like, do you mean like, renounce him completely, or just like not follow his orders?
Not follow his orders anymore. So if
Anymore.
what I mean is if someone like goes against him for a little bit but comes back, I'm not counting that as defecting.
So if they like disobey his orders but do so in ultimately to achieve the same goal that he is trying to achieve, that does or does not count as defecting?
That does
Does not count, because
No.
then Winter
Okay.
would have already counted.
correct.
Okay.
They still have, if they still believe in Iron Daddy, they have not defected. Is everyone
Okay.
clear on this now?
I have my vote already.
All right,
I'm
Pug,
gonna guess-
you go first.
I'm gonna guess A and B.
A, B, Mercedes,
A and B as well.
Maria,
I'll go A and B too.
Eli,
None of them.
Lovely. 9. Whom is the hound? Is it A, Summer Rose, B, one of Salem and Ozma's children, C, some other person, D, it's not a person, it's something else, E, they never explain the hound? Eli.
I'll go with D, it's not a person, it's something else.
Maria.
I'm going E. This is going to be another thing that's just going to be there and we're never going to understand it.
Mercedes.
Without a doubt, I think it's E. I think they're never going to explain it. I think they already did explain it. She was like, I made something crazy, and they were like, wow.
Pug.
Problematic child going with C.
Lovely. Number 10. Will a member of Team Coffee make an appearance? A, yes, B, no. Eli.
I'm gonna say A, yes.
Maria.
I'm going to go no.
Mercedes.
B, no.
Aww. You're betting against your own interests.
They were going to show us coffee. They would have shown us something in that thingamabob.
Aww. All right, Pug.
I'm so sorry, I have a question.
What?
When's the last volume we saw anyone from Team Coffee?
3.
2.
B, no.
Also, last summer in the books.
Yeah, but they would have to remodel them.
Yeah, I know. That's what people say. There wasn't a Coco in the montage thing because she didn't have a model. And I was like, oh,
That's exactly why.
All right, number 11. Will the bomb go off inside the whale while Team Orgy or Team Joyride is still inside? And by that I mean at least one member is in the whale when it goes off. If they get out of the whale right as it blows up, that's no. Is this clear?
I have a question about this one.
Yes.
Does it count if it's a fake out? Like we think for 2 episodes that they were in it.
If by the end of the season we think that they were in there when the bomb went off, then the answer is yes.
And that doesn't necessarily mean they're dead, right?
No, they don't have to die.
In the explosion.
They don't have to die. They just have to be in the whale when the explosion goes off. All right, Pug.
Oh, I don't know. I guess B.
Mercedes.
I definitely think people are going to think people are inside the whale.
Agreed,
when it goes
yeah.
off. Yeah. But I don't think anyone will be. No, B.
Maria.
Oh, yes.
Eli?
We're talking just Team Orgy? Because I have a theory that there's going to be a lot of people from Team Rainbow also inside the whale.
It has to be them specifically.
Okay, then I say no.
B, no. Okay. Number 12. Will someone say a curse word? Eli.
I'm trying to think in what context someone would say a curse word. I'm gonna say, has someone cursed yet in the show?
Tyrion said bitch.
Oh, okay.
That's my boy.
Then I'll say no.
Maria.
Okay, I'm going to do another question. What do you say? Could it be just like damn or hell? It doesn't have to be like fuck, right?
It can't be not damn or hell, but I'll count bitch, I'll count ass, and I'll count bastard.
Okay, so not necessarily something that would be censored on broadcast TV.
Correct.
I'll go yes.
Mercedes.
Or someone says grapes. Does that count?
No.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. Why not? Let your freak flag fly, Ruby.
Pug?
B, no.
Lovely.
Damn and hell don't count, but those are curse words.
For our purposes, no. 13. Will Harriet say the word pegged again? Pug.
No.
Mercedes.
I'm throwing my vote away, but I'm saying yes, just to manifest it.
Maria.
No.
Eli.
No, I don't think so.
All right. Next question. 14. Will Renora unite? A. Yes, and they will make up. B. Yes, but things will still be tense between them. C. Yes, but something terrible will happen to one or both of them right afterwards. D. No. Eli.
Yes, they'll make up, and they're probably also gonna kiss.
Maria.
This volume, I'm gonna go no.
D. Okay. Mercedes.
How many episodes are left in this volume?
7 or 6?
7?
Maybe.
Actually, no. I'm saying A. Yes, and they will make up.
Pug.
Bad faith, A.
Bad faith A. Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be good, it just has to happen.
Correct. All right, question 15. Will Bumblebee become canon? Now, what I mean by this, canon means they either kiss or someone says, I love you. That's what means canon for the purposes of the question. Okay? Your options are A, yes. B, no, but they will reunite in a loving embrace. C, no, and something terrible will happen to one or both of them. D, no, and they will not reunite this volume. Pug.
What if they reunite, but there's no loving embrace?
That was my question.
Then no one gets any points.
Okay, I'm gonna go with B.
Mercedes.
Yes, I also think B.
Maria.
Yeah, B as well.
No, somebody has to vote A.
No one has to vote for anything. Don't pressure people. Eli.
I think B, and they're gonna watch as Renora kisses. It's gonna be really sad for everyone.
Number 16. Will Rose Garden become canon? Same criteria. A, yes. B, no, but they will reunite in a loving embrace. C, no, and something terrible will happen to one or both of them. D, they will not reunite this volume. Eli.
B.
Maria.
Yeah, B as well.
Mercedes.
D.
Pug.
B.
B?
Mhm.
Okay. 17. Will Nuts and Dolts become canon? Your options are A, yes. B, no. C, no, and Penny dies again.
And canon has the same meaning as before.
Correct. Pug,
She
yes.
has to stay dead.
Does
Yes.
she have to stay dead?
She has to be dead on the last episode. So if she's dead by the end of the volume, then that counts as yes, she died again. But if she dies and then they bring her back before the end of the last episode, then she did not die.
What about she dies and then there's Future's over the hiatus, I will fix it.
If we don't know what happens to her, if it's oh god. Man, I really thought I covered all my bases with these questions, but there's always some shit. I'm gonna say if we know for sure she's coming back, then it doesn't count as her dying, but if there's any ambiguity, it counts.
Okay. What if it's a thread of hope, but they're it might not be sure, but we know it probably will be sure.
If there's any
ambiguity.
If there's any ambiguity, then she dies. All right.
Okay.
Pug?
B, no.
Mercedes?
E, no.
Maria?
I'm hoping for B no, because I don't want to see her die again.
Is that what
You don't want A, yes? They become canon?
I mean, I want that, but do I think it's realistically gonna happen? Not yet.
Is B your final answer?
Yes.
Eli?
I think B, no.
Okay. Only a couple more. 18. Will Crow and Robin become canon? A, yes.
It's the same definition of canon.
Correct. A, yes. B, no, but it will be heavily implied that they will in the future. C, no. D, no, and one of them dies. Eli?
No. C.
C. Maria?
B.
Mercedes?
Hardest of C's.
Pug?
Bad faith B, baby.
Baby.
No.
All right, 19. Will Weiss and Nora get more tender moments together? Your options are A, yes, B, no. Pug.
Tender moments, just quiet moments, just the two of them.
Yeah.
B.
Merc?
Oh, A, Nordic Winter. This is their volume.
Maria?
Yes, and I love that chip name.
Yeah, it's a
Eli?
good-
I gotta say, when I was planning like predictions for what was gonna happen, I was not thinking stuff like Harriet's gonna say pegged again. Or this.
Well,
I do
list.
enjoy this a lot. I'm gonna say B, no, because I think they're gonna leave Nora in the house while they go do stuff.
All right, and now it's time for the freeform question. This is the essay portion of the SAT.
Oh my god.
Your question is, who will die and how will they die?
I'm prepared.
Here is how this question will be judged. If the character you guess will die dies, you get 5 points. And if the way that you describe their death is pretty close to how they die, and yes, I am going to arbitrarily judge what counts as pretty close, then you get an additional 5 points. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Here's how I'm going to do this so that no one influences each other. Right now, everyone type in the Discord chat what your answer is, but don't send it. And then when I give the word, everyone hit enter all at the same time. And I'm going to do a 1-minute timer starting now. I'm gonna put I'm gonna put the Jeopardy music in under this, so people at least have something to listen to while you guys are putting some thought into this subject.
That's thoughtful of you.
Also, I think part of me has always wanted to be a game show host, which is what this segment of the podcast is fulfilling for me.
Vague can we be about how they're going to die?
You can be pretty fucking vague.
So I could say, like, someone will die, like, at the hands of Salem's team.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
All right, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Post your answers. All right. Everyone, read out your answers, starting with Pug.
First death, I have Pietro dies saving Penny. Second death, I have Ironwood dies, and one final act that actually helps Team RWBY.
You only get to pick one of them. Which one would you rather bet on?
Oh, I only get to pick one.
Yeah, you only get one.
Shit. Come back to me. Circle back.
Oh, okay. Mercedes?
No deaths.
That is a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
That's fine.
Maria?
I think Ironwood has fucked around, and he is going to find out. He will die at the hands of Salem and or her team.
And finally, Eli?
I think Ironwood is gonna get reinforcements from all the other kingdoms, and he'll be like, wow, maybe it was a good idea to talk to other people about my problems. And then he's gonna get shot by Watts and like die right after.
I can actually see that happening, and I wouldn't love it.
All right. Pug, you have to pick one right now, or you...
Hey. Do not. I already edited my Discord message.
Oh.
I think it's spicier if we all bet on the circumstances of Ironwood stuff.
Ooh.
Okay, there we go. We have our answers. All right. That's it. That's all the bets. Before we close out this podcast, this is a little bit of a shorter one. We're significantly under our usual 2.5 hours. Why don't we just wrap up with our overall thoughts on where the season is at so far, starting with, let's start in the middle for a change. Let's start with Mercedes.
Ooh. I'm very into all of the Schnee stuff in our future, like that clip with Willow. I am very excited about, and also all the winter stuff we've had. I'm very excited about, And the nuts and bolts of it all has been really wonderful.
God, the nuts and bolts of it all. Maria?
Thoroughly enjoyed the nuts and bolts, and especially Penny. I thought that they've done finally a really good job with a lot of the humor, like that little chibi 2D thing where Penny's explaining Ruby's semblance. I almost said quirk there.
Lol.
Like I think there's a lot of improvements, but I think we're in for a lot of pain.
Pain, suffering, even. Agony, if you will. Pug.
I'm not going to honk my clown nose and hope that Cinder gets to do anything for the rest of the volume. So instead, I'm going to hope for a very cute and quiet resolution between Penny and Winter's feelings. I hope they have a nice moment to work out Penny's guilt about having the maiden powers.
That would be
I'd like
nice.
that.
I would
That'd be
love to
nice.
see that. And
Yeah.
finally, Eli.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying what's happening with Penny also. Also really enjoying what's going on with Emerald and Neo, and I hope only good things for them in the future, even though I kind of doubt it's gonna happen. But yeah, it'd be nice if Emerald can get like a little rehab and get out of the Cinder posse for once. Don't think it's gonna happen, but I'm holding out hope for her.
Emerald, please get out, girl. You can do so much better.
Ship Emerald and Neo, is that like allowed?
Spumoni.
That's Spumoni. That's a great ship.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I love them. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Here's hoping that shit happens in the show that doesn't completely break my betting format. Here's hoping that the rest of the show is actually good. Looking forward to the rest of this volume, and I will see you all later. Say bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.